The company organized a team building weekend abroad. I never joined them before because I would panic just by thinking about traveling. I decided that I have to face my fears because I knew they were not rational. I agreed to fly with them, stay one night and leave the next morning. Baby steps, you know. It would be my first night away from my baby girl. I was very nervous. I got through the flight trip and arrived at the hotel without getting a panic attack. I tried to breathe through it. And when we were all having dinner, everyone seemed to have a great time. But I was only thinking, tomorrow you can fly home. Tomorrow you can fly home. Just a few hours. You just have to get through the night. I was very anxious. No one knew. I shared a double room with my colleague Magdalena. And she was snoring. I tried to wake her a few times. But after 30 seconds she'd be snoring again. And I couldn't sleep. I put in my earplugs and put music on high volume, so I wouldn't hear the snoring. I didn't sleep 1 minute that night. We had a short meeting in the morning before I was supposed to leave for the airport. My boss said it only takes 20 minutes to drive to the airport, so he ordered a taxi accordingly. When I sat down in the taxi driver said, "No, it's traffic now. It takes at least 40 minutes to get to the airport." And I got anxious. Then the taxi driver managed to take a wrong turn, and we got even more delayed. I had no sleep that night. I was so anxious already, and I just wanted to get home. I was freaking out inside. The flight was delayed, and I managed to check in, and everything was okay. Now it would be only a few hours until I would be home again. The flight was okay until we were supposed to land. We were already on the way down when suddenly the plane was dragged up again. I was pressed in my seat and there was so much pressure. It felt like my eyeballs were pushed into my skull. It was so scary. All the children started crying and screaming. And then the plane was circling. The pilot said that we couldn't land because of turbulences. And then I lost it. It seemed like we were circling for hours. I had no sleep and I just couldn't take it. And I lost it, big time. I started crying and my thoughts went crazy. The pilot is probably drunk. They probably don't have enough fuel to be circling that long. I'm going to die. My daughter will grow up without her mom. She will be scarred for life. I will never see her growing up. I should have never gone on this business trip, and I knew it. I didn't want to go, but I didn't listen to my inner voice. I looked around and saw all the worried faces. I was convinced I would die. Well, I didn't. We landed eventually. My husband picked me up and I was just crying. I was so exhausted. We went home and I slept 1 hour and then we went to finally pick up my baby girl from the kindergarten. But this experience caused something inside of me. The next week I was getting weaker each day. I was tired before but never like this. My energy was so low. I barely made it through work. And when I came home, I fell asleep on the sofa. Then I would wake up and go to bed at 8 o'clock and would wake up totally exhausted. It went like that for a week until I suddenly broke down. It was a Saturday and I was driving my daughter to the dancing school and I felt already in the car that my eyes were watering up and I tried to fight it. And when we arrived at the dancing school, I started crying. And my sweet baby girl was so worried. And I said, "Mommy's just tired. Just go and dance and have fun. Everything is fine." She went to class and I went outside and called my husband. I told him he had to come now. That I can't stop crying and I don't know why. And he has to come to pick her up. He came and I went home. I was crying the whole weekend and started to calm down on Sunday evening. I had a long talk with my husband and we concluded that this was a reaction to the plane trip. I felt so silly, because they were just turbulences. But for me, in that moment, it felt real. And really, I thought I would die. Even if my mind knew that nothing serious had happened, my body was shutting down. I tried to go to work on Monday, but started crying as soon as I arrived at the office. So I went to the doctor's office. And I was crying, and I said, I don't know what's going on, maybe I'm burned out. And he said, no, it looks like depression. You get a sick leave for 2 weeks now. Relax, go for a long walk, and call me if it should get worse. We talk again in 2 weeks. I went home and went to bed. And for the next 3 days I couldn't get out of bed. It felt like something was holding me on my spine and was dragging me down. It felt so heavy. But I was determined that I could not get long-term sick. I felt that would ruin my fragile career. After 3 days, I managed to get up again, and I started going for walks, and I took it very slowly. I started to feel better the first week, but the second week I started to get emotional again, and I felt worse for each day. I went to the doctors and said that I couldn't just be at home. I feel I only get worse, and if I can start working maybe at 50%. I also asked if we could look into my depression, if there's maybe more to it. And he just said, no, you look fine now. Just go back to work and see how it goes. If you get worse again, then we can look into it. I was worried. I did not feel stable at all. I felt like I might be breaking down again at any time. I knew I had to change something drastically. First of all, my job. It's been 3 years of stress and I should have gotten out much earlier. I decided to apply for new jobs again. The situation at work was getting better, but I knew I had to change my life. Not only for me, but for my daughter. I wanted her to have a healthy mom that is happy and not crying and depressed all the time. I asked Dr. Google and came over something called Johannes herbs. They are supposed to work like antidepressants, but all natural and no side effects, as long as you don't use them together with other medicines. Available without any prescription at any pharmacy, so I got it. I still felt like I was wandering in the dark, but I had my emotions under control. I went back to work and I would seem fine to everybody.